What's up, everybody? Welcome to House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you for a little while here on Orange Bloods Live, courtesy of Texas Card House and Hijack Poker. If you want to play in person, you find any of the great 6 clubs inside the state of Texas. They're in Austin. They're in the Houston area. They're in the Dallas area. And go play in the #1 card house anywhere in town. The new Texas Card House Social in North Austin is one of our favorite stops to go. But if you just want to play online for real money, then download that Hijack Poker app, go to the website, hijackpoker.com, scan that QR code. You got to be inside the state of Texas to play. They will literally, it'll cut you off if you start crossing state boundaries. But if you're inside the state of Texas, you can play for real money. You can cash out at any of those great Texas Card House locations. You can deposit money. There's any kind of way that you want to, basically. It's pretty perfect. Except for the bad beats when I lose.
Those are not perfect. Not good.
Happened again today. I'm not going to cry in my Cheerios or anything, but poker is a heartbreaking game.
Yeah. By the way, Catch, I need somebody to do a test for me. I would not advise the Red River version because who wants to go to Oklahoma? But can somebody get on Hijack Poker and then drive into Louisiana and just let us know officially, is there just a moment where it cuts off? That's fantastic.
There is. I've been told that's exactly what will happen.
That is so great.
People are I got pocket aces. I'm in it. What happened? It's gone. That's what will happen.
I no longer have pocket aces. Catch, I'm very excited today because you are going Billy Bob on the people. You're giving them a 10. There's a 10.
I know. Well, there's the portal it's day 2 of the portal. And it's interesting because there are very specific things related to the Longhorns that we'll get into. There is the overall state of the portal. There's what has happened today in the portal. Kind of quiet on the portal front. Not overly quiet on the Texas front because I think Texas is active. They're busy. We thought they would be, and they have been. Big Poke says, tight end, D-tackle, kicker, please, a glaring need. Look, we know where the obvious spots are.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, Chad, one of the things that I would do throughout the entire process is we'll update everybody on things that happen on a daily basis. We'll let everybody know the best available at all times so that you have awareness to, okay, here's what's going on. And then we can specifically talk about the Texas stuff.
Yeah. Kicker from Notre Dame entered the portal. I just love how Texas fans are keeping up with these kickers. There's another kicker we got to probably mention today. It's
funny, there was a Notre Dame kicker in the portal last year. Nobody cared then.
That's it. You and I were screaming and yelling about that guy. What about that dude? No, well, that was the punter though, wasn't it?
It was the punter. You're right.
It was the punter, and he was a multi-year guy, and the average. Never mind. We won't rehash that. We won't relitigate that discussion. But there's a lot of action going on in the portal. So how do you want to start this, Catch? You want to throw the list up at the beginning, or you want to start getting to a couple names and then we'll throw the list up later?
The list of names I think answers everything.
Okay.
So let's go to my top 10 available guys. There's really not a lot from today that would change this. So it's not outdated. It's up to date as of this morning. Chad, you want to pop it up there?
I'll do it. And the picture is certainly important here. That big man right there is part of the discussion, Catch.
Is it me? Oh, I didn't know who you were talking about at first. So look, top 10 best available portal players and prospects based on what's in the portal right now. If you're wondering, number 2, Bo Edge. I think Nico is the obvious one. Bo Edge is a guy that already has visits set up to Ohio State and Georgia.
Bo Edge does?
I'm sorry, Bo Atkinson plays Edge. Gotta be careful whenever there's an Edge player named Bo.
Yeah, be very careful.
Become Bo Edge. Although, if you end up playing it at Ohio State or Georgia, maybe you then just become Bo Edge.
That's true, Bo Edge.
But Bo Atkinson, not the son of any of the Von Erich brothers or anything like that. He's number 2 on the list right now. Right behind him, Jack Andrews, the tight end from Cal, who's pictured above. We know he's going to visit the Longhorns. They're involved there. There's already a lot of talk on the Cal side of things that this is a little bit of a foregone conclusion. I really like him. There's another tight end that re-entered the portal, Tanner Kazole. I'm not going to pretend that I just said that last name correct, Chad, but
Kaziol, maybe it's 3 sounds. Kaziol.
Now, he played at Ball State a year ago and caught 90 passes.
This is a crazy portal story, by the way.
He transferred to Wisconsin, and he's like, I'm good. I'm out.
Luke Fickell must be slamming his head against a wall about this kid. Like, what? What is going on?
This falls under the category of what we've been talking about, which is maybe rattle some cages and force some guys into the portal. This kid seemed like he had a home until somebody convinced him, I think, that he could have a better home. So I'm really interested to see where that goes. Most people will have Tanner ranked higher than Jack. I'll be honest, I watched them both. Jack's bigger. Tanner looks like a tall, big wide receiver. Jack looks like a tight end. So in terms of like who I think I preferred more than the other, I kind of like Jack because he literally looks like a tight end, whereas I look at Tanner Kazole and I think to myself, okay, definite H-back. Remember how you'd look at Dan Buckner and you go, he's just a big receiver. That's kind of who this guy is. I think if you go through the rest of the list, Cameron Camper, we talked about him out of Boise State, had a big year a year ago. He's a native of Texas. I like him a lot, but he's been out there since January and no real movement. Andrew Simpson, a starter last year for Boise State at linebacker, has multiple years of eligibility remaining. Micah Hudson, Texas Tech. We get to a part of the list here, Chad, where is he good now versus do we think he has so much talent from recruiting that we can't ignore it? This is that part of the list. So I look at Micah Hudson. I don't know what he is this year, but I know how talented I thought he was a year ago. Same thing with Davon Mitchell, the tight end from Oklahoma. He's on my top 10 because I just can't imagine that there are 10 guys that you would take over both of those guys in a world where talent matters. Trevor Pena, a wide receiver from Syracuse, a proven guy, will be somebody that is highly coveted in the portal. And then Phillip Lee, an edge player from Troy, super productive guy, kind of a classic tweener in terms of size. And that's kind of it right now. So it's not a super deep portal. And you probably can get to 5 or 4 and stop where the Longhorns have an interest until this point. So, yeah, they need some more guys to enter the portal. This itself is not good enough. I'm expecting that to happen. Had somebody tell me yesterday there are more names coming, but as things currently stand, I totally understand if somebody looks at this list and goes, these are the guys that are going to decide who wins the national championship? Not yet.
There's 10 days. There's 10 days in this portal. It's wild that those 2 tight ends are kind of up, higher on the list. And Catch, I think the good news for Texas fans, like Sark talked about, you can't control the level of talent technically that jumps in this portal, but he said they needed receiver numbers wise. He said they needed a defensive lineman. He said they needed a tight end numbers wise. And so far, one of those has been addressed one time, receiver with Mosley. And now we're seeing at least the discussion about a tight end with, injuries. The next thing I'm thinking if I'm a Texas fan is when is the right level of defensive lineman jumping in? Like, have you seen any defensive lineman that has jumped in the portal yet that has a feel of, okay, that's who Sark's talking about? That's the kind of guy he's talking about.
No.
Okay.
No, and definitely not somebody that's different than what they had a year ago.
How about a Dominic Williams type? Any of those guys in?
I think they feel like they have those types.
Okay. That's what they've already gotten.
They feel like they have something above that.
They feel like with Brevard and Shaw and Canoe, they've got that.
They've got rotation players. I
Right.
don't know that they feel like they've got an all SEC workhorse, bona fide, on the biggest play of the game, who's definitely out there on the field. And I don't think they have the answer to that question.
Gotcha. Let's grab the first super chat of the day here. James with a $4.99 saw OB tweet on Simmons wanting the sack record outside of Ricky's rushing record. What are the 3 most untouchable records for UT football? That's interesting. The sack record catch is 22.5. Did I see that right?
Yeah.
That's a big number. I didn't realize it was that high.
It's one of those. I get into people who say this because it's one of those early passing game numbers. When does Diala break that record?
Who are we talking about?
Doesn't Kiki Diala have that record?
Yes. Diala. Yeah. 22. Yes, that's the record.
It came at a time when teams weren't really even throwing the football. So I always wondered, I really need to see the stats.
So do you wonder how many of those sacks occurred you're maybe against like wishbone type offenses where it was technically a sack?
Yes. I want to see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
And see because I don't think what they counted as a sack back then is automatically a sack today. There are design quarterback runs that they will give a tackle for loss on where they won't give a sack. And there are times when I think it's kind of a hybrid of the two things.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, well, it was a designed run, but he has a pass read first. And I sometimes feel like I'm in between the two places of what I think a tackle behind the line of scrimmage should be in that moment. I kind of feel like back in 1980, 1979, 1981, whatever,
yeah,
I kind of feel like they were just giving everything counted as a sack.
Yeah, 82. Isn't it weird that it would be 1982? Because that's the year, if I'm not mistaken, that the NFL decided that stat actually mattered, which is one of the stupidest things in the history of football. Like nobody in the 60s or 70s thought, you think it's important when they tackle the quarterback?
Well, and look, some of those old numbers, even on a guy like Harvey Martin, you're like, wait a minute. How many sacks did they say Harvey Martin had in 1979?
Right. Or Deacon Jones, I think, is the craziest one. Like there's some, it's like, well, Deacon Jones had 64 one year. It's like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
With sacks, there's just a little bit of like, A, I kind of need to see what that just visualized look like. And B, that's never going to happen. I've lived as long as I've lived without seeing that requested highlight reel from that time that shows me, oh, well, this is what it looked like when Mark McGuire hit 40 home runs in this year. You know what I mean? You see the bat swinging. You can see all of the home runs. We don't get to see that. All I know is since I've been covering college football, getting to 10 feels like an effort.
Double-digit sacks is one thing. So to the point of that super chat, I thought of a guy catch that's now gone into the chat a few times. Somebody just threw us this. McCard66 says all of Colts records are untouchable. Any player good enough to start 4 years would leave after 3. The one that popped in my head catch as an untouchable kind of Texas record was Colt and the completion percentage for a year. Because wasn't he living in like a 72, 73, 74% neighborhood for the whole season?
Yeah, his 2008 is pretty ridiculous.
Like that's and people are throwing out the touchdown record and hey, Chris Bennett throws a great old school one out. James Street 20-0. That's a good one. But for me, Colt's completion record is one that I'm not sure who runs that one down. This day and age of college football, there's so many more balls in the air. But to get up to that level, to get up to where Colt was, that's going to be tough to do.
Hold on. There's one that I'm looking for. Oh, hold on. I'm looking through some numbers right now. Brett Hager's 499 tackles feels safe.
That seems like a lot. That's a lot. And also, back to the point of the last chat, if you're good enough for 3 years, if you're Britt Hager level at 3 years, you're not staying for 4 anymore. You're not staying another year to add on to that total. $499. That is still the overall. That's all time. I wonder, do you have the full list? Can you see what second place is?
Ayla had 22 and a half sacks in 1982.
Yeah.
The next closest on the list is 14.
That's fantastic. Who's 14? Johnson?
Ken McCoon in 1980.
Oh, God.
Bill Acker in 1978. Tim Campbell in 1977. So the top 4 sack seasons of all time, 82, 80, 78, and 77. I'm telling you,
this just ain't
something
happening.
Smelly going on there, Chad.
Yeah, there's just something that is not happening because you got a lot of, Well, and you think about it too. There's a lot more quick pass game, get the ball out of your hands, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, back in those days,
40 years, only in the last 40, Chad, and really since 1982, only one guy has ever cracked 13 in a season.
Here's what I love, though. I love that Colin Simmons took the 11 off, threw the 1 on, said, I'm the one. And he looked at that record and went, hey, there's one. 22 and a half, huh? Oh, yeah.
So who's the only guy to ever break 13 in the last 43 years? Jeez. He was a Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. That's a hint.
Okay, so the only guy to break 13 in since you said 43 years. So you're going back to since
going back to 1982.
Since 82, who's the only guy to get more than 13?
He had 13. Nobody's had more than 13.
Nobody's had more than 13.
Alex Okafor had 12 and a half in 2012.
Arakpo.
No, Okafor. Oh, no. It's not Arakpo. Who did have 11 and a half in 2008.
Derek Johnson.
No.
Last
guess. I'm not going to make you just keep guessing. What if I give you the year?
Yeah. How dare you? We all know how good a student I've been on this show.
What if I tell you that it happened in the last 15 years?
No, trust me. As we've learned, I think even if you get me towards the year, I'm still going to screw it up. Tell me who it is.
Matt Brown recruited athlete.
Okay. Go ahead and tell me.
Jackson Jeffcoat.
Yeah. Wow. Wasn't coming up with that name.
13 in 2013.
Good for you, JJ.
It's the only time in the last 40 plus years that somebody's had 13 or more.
There you go. And Colin Simmons looked it dead in the face and said, so doesn't mean I can't do it.
So hold on. This is so funny.
You go ahead, one.
Of the list. So Texas has a top 11 list of all-time sacks in a season.
Okay.
I don't even know the window that let's go in a window from 77 to 84. Okay. Let's count how many of the top, what is 13 in a top 11. Okay.
Okay.
Diala is 82.
Yeah.
McCoon 80. Acker 78. Campbell 77. Dwight Jefferson had 13 and 78. Tony the Great had 12 and 84. Diala had 12 and 81.
Slacker.
McMichael had 12 and 77.
Damn.
Kenneth Sims had 11 and a half in 1980. And Dewey Turner had 11 and a half in 1980. 10 of the top 13 sack seasons of all time happened between 1977 and 1984. Just every year, dudes were just sacking dudes like crazy.
Sacks everywhere. Everywhere.
That's and then since 1984, the only guys to get double digits of more than 11 are Arakpo, which you mentioned in 2008, Okafor in 2012, Jackson Jeffcoat in 2013. Okay, so I would say the 22 and a half single sacks in a season.
That's up there.
Feels Way more than Roger Maris's 61 back in the day.
Feels pretty solid right now. It's going to be great if we get to like 2 games to go and Simmons has like 20. He's chasing the thing down.
I'll even give you another one. Diala's 40 and a half career sacks.
Yeah, it's a big number. That's huge.
Because if you're getting that many sacks, it goes back to you're not staying 4 years, you're staying 3 years.
Absolutely. If you found 35 in 3 years, you're gonna hang around for a fourth to go get that record.
If you had the number 5, 6, and 7 sack seasons in the history of the program, they don't add up to 40 and a half.
Yeah, you're going to go train for the combine. That's what you're going to do. You are not coming back.
Can I give you another one?
Sure.
This could just be the Kiki Diala show.
Yes.
That dude had 56 quarterback pressures in 1982.
That sounds significant. 56, and he turned 22 and a half of them into sacks? Good for him. Also, the name Kiki Diala is pretty badass, too. When you say just saying that name makes me, want to watch football.
You have to go down to the top. You got to get down to number 8 before you get to somebody in the last 40 years that has posted. Corey Redding in 2002 had 37, which sounds like a huge number until you realize only 19 more to reach Kiki. Jeez.
I just want to know, catch the discussion from the other side. Like, how many teams discussed maybe doubling Kiki Diala a little bit? 56 pressures? Good Lord.
A free run.
Why
can't we see film of this?
Can I get a tight end over there, please? Can I get a tight end and a running back over to help? Please.
I don't think teams even threw the ball. I don't know. I bet if I looked up Texas opponents from that year, he's got 56 pressures. There's no way opponents threw for 3 times that number. So 168 I'm setting as the pass attempts against Texas in that season. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to say that the opposing team didn't throw the ball 3 times for every time he got to a quarterback.
You might be right about that.
I'm going to look it up.
All right, we do have a super chat. Oscar, we're going to get to your super chat. I promise we're not going to talk Kiki Diala for the entire show.
Super chat, and I'll have it by the time we're done.
We are just lost in this for a second. Learned Hat says, isn't it Diala? No, I've always said Diala, but
I've always said Diala.
Thank you for that. Oscar,
if they made a highlight film of this season, we would know.
Oscar 999. Other than the tight end Claire, how are Ohio State, Georgia, and those types of programs outdoing Texas? What are those programs making those? Where are those programs making those small improvements that we aren't? It's an interesting question, Oscar. I don't know.
I would need to go look at what Ohio State did. I can tell you what they did last year in the portal.
Right. I mean, there's some, I think it's a fine margin type discussion, but maybe there's a couple things here and there. Oscar, I'll still say it. I went back and rewatched that game again. It didn't feel like a gap, a massive, huge gap between those two teams. Like there's little things that turn that game one way or the other. To me, what I would tell you, Oscar, is our Ohio State and Georgia may be a little more stocked than you overall. Maybe, but it's not that, but it's close. I think it's pretty tight. I think you're going to have a group that can compete there. Claire's an interesting one to bring up though. And Texas certainly does need to address tight end in this.
I don't think Ohio State, I think they only signed about 4 or 5 guys in the portal early on. But I think the guys that they were interested in, they didn't, they went and got C.J. Donaldson, the running back out of West Virginia, again,
which they needed.
They felt like got to have a guy. He fits the profile. Go get him, and they did.
Yeah, because both of those guys are headed to the league.
They brought in an edge player from Idaho State. So I don't know, and then one of the bigger portal guys was a Rice transfer, an offensive lineman named Ethan Oanawa. I mean, he's expected to be a starter for Ohio State. So I think – so what I would say is of what we probably saw how Ohio State did early on in the portal, that's probably that's probably 3 starters on offense at a minimum. In the portal in the early stages, they addressed running back, offensive line, tight end. I mean, that's what Texas is doing now. Texas is addressing tight end. They've addressed a wide receiver spot. And I'm going to work on this, Chad. I haven't completely – the more and more we look at Emit Mosley, the more and more I'm convinced that the entire college football world has kind of slept on who he was in the portal, because there just aren't that – if I tell you that in the history of Texas football, there were probably only 4 wide receivers that had better freshman seasons than he had, it stands to reason there won't be that many in general in college football. That there won't have been 10 freshmen last year that had better numbers than he did. We know a couple of them. We know Ryan Williams, and we know Jeremiah Smith. And I think we're so tantalizingly obsessed with those 2 guys for good reason. They're spectacular. That we aren't putting enough weight on what it was that he actually did. So one of the things I'm going to work on in a story that I'm writing, my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend, for later on, I haven't even started yet. I probably will get that done on Sunday. But who in the last 3 games of the season as a freshman receiver outproduced this guy? And I don't know that we're going to find many, if anybody. Last 3 games of his season, he was on fire.
Yeah. It's just that it did. Yeah, it just that it didn't matter. He played at a place where it didn't matter. Those other 2 guys played at big dogs, locations, and Texas may end up with, I mean, when you just say 48 catches as a freshman, you just stop right there. Dude caught 48 balls as a freshman. That's a big deal, but it got lost in that conference. It got lost on that team. It got lost inside that schedule. That who the hell was peeking in on Stanford by the end of the year, other than those that were being paid to do it?
And when he got into the portal, it was very little fanfare because it happens in the spring. He doesn't have a house. And because the thing I kept thinking of is if you took that kid's freshman film and put a Texas Tech uniform on him and just said, that's Micah Hudson.
Right.
Everybody would have, look at what he did as a freshman. He came in with the big, because it wasn't just the receptions. It is 6 touchdowns. There's a lot. It is the way he closed the season. I think it's a much bigger portal grab than I think people are giving it credit for. I've heard even some Texas observers say, well, he'll help the depth. And it's like, no, he'll help the starters.
Yeah.
If Texas has guys that are just better than him, well, then fantastic. That means what Texas will have on its hands are multiple receivers who are capable of a 3-game stretch catching 26 passes over 3 games. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it matters, catch to compare to Matthew Golden's year at Houston. He had 10 more catches than Golden at Houston. He had 121 more yards, same number of touchdowns. They each had 6 touchdowns in those seasons. So the numbers are comparable, at least, if not better than what Golden was. And I know Golden was producing it in, would that have been the Big 12? Yeah, Houston was already in the Big 12 at that point. But yeah, I think you're right. It is kind of an under the radar type of season. But when you watch that film, it's impressive.
He's going to be a future first-round pick, Chad. I think he's going to catch a lot of passes at Texas over the next 2 seasons. And I think, similarly to Matthew Golden, we will look back in 18 months from now and we'll go, man, everybody probably should have made a bigger fuss over him when he was in the portal.
Yeah. And then the real question might be for the next 10 days, is it a good enough pickup that Sark stands pat at receiver?
I don't think so, because there's still a type that they need.
Okay. And he's not that guy. You still think they need a badass outside guy?
I think they still need somebody who can scare teams.
Right.
And I don't think that's what he represents. I think he's the kind of proven sticker guarantee on the box that you want your quarterback to have. A guy that in every game you go into, that's 5 for 60 right there.
Right.
And that is incredibly valuable. I mean, for Arch to be able to go in and go, hey, on third downs at various points in the game, this guy's going to be money in the bank for me. That's what they got out of that guy. And I don't know that that's what Ryan Wingo is. And I think that that's who DeAndre Moore can be, but he really hasn't been that guy yet either. So I just think he's the most dependable option from day one that arrives at Texas. I do think they need a little something more than dependable, though, for this to be an optimal window. But having said that, and I know that Tracy's got a tight end question. We can go back into that. If Texas is able to pull this kid from Cal, Jack Injuries, at the tight end position, to me, that's 2 absolute starters that you've added to the team in, let's say, the last week on a playoff level team. So these aren't contributors. I think these are guys that come in and elevate the top end of your lineup, which is where Texas needs to be shopping. So are they perfect fits? I don't know. We could quibble over. I don't think Jack Injuries is as good as Max Clare. And I watched both of them back to back. I do, as I mentioned, I like him better than the kid from Wisconsin via Ball State. But everybody will have different varying degrees. I'll tell you what I liked about him, Chad, so I started watching Injuries play, his season highlight tape at Cal. And you're like, oh my God, this guy's like button hook central. He turns around, the ball arrives, he gets hit as soon as he catches it. So I was kind of sitting there thinking to myself, I don't know about him. And then one time they ran him down the seam and he caught a pass where he's got an athletic looking linebacker on his heels. And he runs away from that guy for about 50 yards. And I was like, okay, he's got that in his locker. I know he can do all this button hook stuff, but you're telling me he can get open down the seam, stretch a defense, and then finish the play if he gets it. I'm going to tell you who he's not. There used to be a tight end at Texas who's remembered for one play and one play only, Mike Jones. Everybody knows the play, right, Chad?
Definitely. Roll left.
But, when he gets into the end zone against, and that was Derek Lewis, Mike Jones had the touchdown at home in 99 where it took him like 14 seconds to go 5 yards.
That's right. The long developing, the brutalist.
It was the all-time Chris Berman rumbling, stumbling, almost fumbling. But he got there. He did get there.
You can watch the brutalist, including the intermission, and he's still not in the end zone.
He's not Mike Jones. He's more, the guy that I thought of was Pat Fitzgerald. And then I thought, how old do I have to be that I'm going back 30 years for my Texas tight end comps?
Oh, I dig me some Pat Fitzgerald, though.
But he's a little bit of that in that I think he's a short, intermediate range guy, but he's a good athlete. And when he's gone, you take him back on your team in a heartbeat. And I kind of think that's who Jack Injuries is. I don't know that he's the high-end NFL guy that both Jatavian Sanders and, the most recent mocks I've seen of Gunnar Helm still show him going late third, early fourth. I don't know if he's going to be that, but I think he's going to be better than Juan Davis. And I tell you what, man, you take Juan Davis on this team right now, no questions asked. If I said you could have another season of the Juan Davis from a year ago, you'd say to yourself, well, we can build on that. Yeah, he just started getting good right about the time that he was leaving. So I think he's better than that, but not quite as good as that. But I tell you what, on this team, Arch could use that. This offense could use that. And so I'm really optimistic about what I'm actually seeing from Texas because I do think the names early on are guys that are really going to help this team.
All right, Tracy, Jay, we see your super chats. We are going to get to those. Also, thanks to our great partners around here, like Hayes City Store. Here comes the picture. Oh, yeah, there she is in the picture. There's a lovely, I believe that's an otter hound there in the lower left, right under that tree. Beautiful atmosphere out at Hayes City Store, daytime, nighttime. Go get some of that incredible food, incredible drink. I'll throw a QR code up for you just in case you need it. Make sure you're not in a hurry because it's out in Driftwood and it's beautiful country out there. You don't want to be in a hurry. You want to take your time. You want to get some great food. The home run dip's a great way to start. The key lime pie is a great way to finish, and everything in the middle is just awesome. Go see them out in Driftwood. You can check them out at Hayes City Store TX. In terms of Facebook, go to social media. They're updating you on concerts and specials that they've got out there. So check out Hayes City Store TX on your social media for that as well. And get on out to Hayes City Store. Tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. All right, we got some super chats in. Tracy's was mentioned, so I'll pull it up first. $5. Please share your thoughts on if Texas can't address the tight end situation. Texas running more 11 personnel. Keep up the good work, Catch.
I mean, yeah, like if you don't have the tight ends to be good, you can't play 10 on 11 football or 9 on 11 football. So
yeah,
they don't address the tight end situation. I think you'll have to see Texas adjust. I don't think you can see the same Texas that we're used to seeing on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't think you can.
Yeah, Tracy, I just don't think there's any way that comes true because we know Sark runs so much 12 personnel. He's not going to enter a season where he's trapped into 11 personnel. He just won't. I can't imagine that happening, Catch.
Well, and on top of that, you get yourself into that position, and you're really tipping your hand with your play calling at that point when you do go. One of the reasons why I like the 12 personnel so much is they have universally felt like they can do anything that they want to out of it.
Yeah,
they can run the ball, they can throw the ball effectively that opposing teams can't predict what's coming when they're in that personnel. It is one of the reasons why they love it as much as they do. So they really fundamentally change who they are as an offense if they can't address the tight end situation. And Tracy, what I would say is, man, it is not an accident. Jack Andrews does not accidentally know that Texas would have an interest. Before that kid was officially in the portal, that kid knew he was visiting Texas. Yep. How that happens? Hey, man, I'll let you figure out how to tell your kid about Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. What I'm telling you is there are no accidents in life.
It could have even just been as simple as Sark did a press conference and he told him out loud they needed one. Sark, he said it.
That kid's name wasn't officially in the – we had a little contact with him, and he was like, hey, don't really want to say I'm in the portal until it's official. He was very much like, I don't want to say the wrong thing and do anything out of turn. Mm-hmm. So he was like, when it's official, I'll let you know. And like 5 minutes later, it was official, and it was like, okay, yeah, no, I'm in the portal. But what was really interesting about that is, as soon as it became official that he was in the portal, it was confirmed that Texas would be one of the schools that he would visit. No date set up, no other schools set up, just definitely taking a visit to Texas.
Well, yeah.
I think when that happens, normally I should be getting my instant analysis commitment article written.
Yeah. Well, look at another couple of examples. Running back, Jaden Ott from Cal, same thing with Oklahoma. He's a Sooner in 12 seconds.
Yeah.
And have you followed the latest in who might replace Nico? Did you catch that one? That the dominoes found their way to your former hometown, Waco, Texas? Like, that's weird. The Baylor quarterback ducks into the portal and puts the do not disturb on. I wonder what that means. Apparently that's what it means. So, yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, I feel a little bit different about paying Nico that money if the drop down is Sawyer Robertson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then if you're one of those big money donors we talked about out on the river in Knoxville, it's like, whoa, wait, what? What did I owe? Damn it. I had that.
I'm just saying.
I got that in the cooler over here. What are we doing? Yeah. There was another super chat that came in. This goes back to the stat discussion, but I think Jay makes a good point here. $5. Was it option football back then? To talking an option quarterback behind the line, tackling a quarterback behind the line would be a sack. Jay, I think that's as big a part of the answer as anything, because that just doesn't happen anymore, where a quarterback might be working his way down the line of scrimmage. And back then, he just had to eat the play. There wasn't a run. Nobody did run pass option kind of stuff. Maybe they should have, trained your quarterback to just chunk it out of bounds or something, but you're going to have to eat that play more often than not, and that's a sack. Nowadays, that's not going to be a sack. That's not how the offenses work. So,
by the way, officially, I looked it up. I was wrong. Texas opponents that season, and keep in mind they were trailing a lot, so they had to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Texas opponents that year threw the ball 251 times. Texas had 44 sacks on the season.
Damn.
That's almost 1 out of every 5 times.
Right. But again, to Jay's point, you have to factor in all the option stuff. Like that is,
of course.
Yeah, that's easily part of the answer too. So that's something you'd have to go back and break it down to. What would we consider a true pass play? What do we consider, what's the option version of that? So it will be catch. It is one of the most unattainable stats, just to kind of circle back.
But now, if there was an option quarter, they really would go out of their way to call that a tackle for loss. And I just think they were a little bit more free with the verbiage they used to describe what was happening back then.
Right, because if a quarterback starts to take off now, it's very different. So Colin Simmons, if you get to 23, you are going to earn it. Every bit of it. That will be an incredible record if he is able to actually pass.
Because if Arch Manning's in the shotgun and it's a delayed draw, so he shows pass, maybe even he makes a read on the play, but then tucks the ball and runs.
That's not a sack to me.
They're not going to call that a sack, even if he gets tackled behind, and they would have in 1982. That just. You're right.
Yeah. Well, again,
they weren't lining up in the shotgun at all. So,
and again, back to the weird anomaly of stats. The National Football League didn't keep the stat officially until 82. They didn't keep the stat. Yeah. So you're asking college football in the late 70s and early 80s to fully understand sacks and half sacks and when is it a sack when the professionals weren't doing it. Like, that's crazy. The idea that, like, when the Cowboys, Doomsday, and Steel Curtain in Pittsburgh, when all that's going on, they're not even paying attention to sacks. Oh, okay.
Well, and now today, coaching staffs will go back and redo stats and then send them into their school and say, you guys didn't give, Colin Simmons a sack, but he had a sack. So they will
correct. They'll go look.
It doesn't happen a ton because everybody pays attention to these things now, but occasionally you will see a sack number change or something tweaked after the fact. I always make a point of checking the stats a couple of days later to see if there was anything that changed based on what I either thought or read about, just out of curiosity. Anywho.
Here's a real quick, one more nerdy chat and we can move on. But Barb's 10 says that makes zero sense. He is running and tackle behind the line of scrimmage. That is a TFL and a sack if you are a quarterback. Would they put both those stats on one play?
I mean, a sack does count as a tackle for loss and a sack.
I guess that's true. I never thought of it that way, that both of those would exist. So technically, they should.
Sack is a passing play stat. And a tackle for loss is a run play stat.
So you're talking about, that's the fine line between, it's obvious it starts as a pass play. It ends up as a quarterback scramble play.
But all sacks count as tackles for loss.
As TFL. So it should be both. If he eventually ends up as a runner, but it starts as an obvious pass play, if he's tackled behind the line of scrimmage, that should be a TFL and a sack.
It
right?
does get counted that way, yes.
Yeah, it should be. Okay, Barb's 10. I think you're right on that one. Interesting, nerdy stat discussion today. Fantastic. Thank you guys for jumping in the Specs chat. Up over 500 of you in there. Let's give Specs their love. Go get stocked up for the weekend. It's WrestleMania weekend, wrestling fans. Go get stocked up.
As a Texas family-owned business, we know you don't mess with Texas. And you won't find more ways to raise a glass of Texas-made cheer than right here. So whatever you're planning, we're ready to get you ready. Because at Specs, the fun starts here.
Also, Easter weekend. Maybe you're getting ready for Easter Sunday and you need some cool drinks and food and all that kind of good stuff. Specs, one of our big partners around here, and they've been sponsoring the chat pretty much since day one here on Orange Bloods Live. If y'all want to throw chats in, feel free. Barb's 10 did sneak in a super chat, $5. So it is a sack if it is a direct. Oh, wait. Is it a sack if it's a direct snap to a running back wide receiver and he doesn't scramble? No.
They never count it that way.
No wildcat sacks. That is not how that one works. All right, Catch. In terms of portal stuff, you discussed Jack Andrews. One question popped in my brain. In terms of what you've seen from injuries, Endries, so injuries, Jack Andrews, this tight end from Cal. In terms of what you've seen on film, could you see Andrews and Jordan Washington meshing together on a team? Could you see them in a 12 personnel situation?
Sure.
Okay. They don't do the exact same thing to you. They're not the exact same style tight end.
I mean, beggars can't be choosy. I don't know that I think Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis are wildly different tight ends. I think you do what you got to do sometimes. Would they like to have some? It's one of the reasons why I think there's a good chance they'll sign 2 tight ends in the portal. But no, I think that those 2 guys don't overlap each other enough that they counterfeit each other by any stretch of the imagination. At this point, Jordan Washington's wildly unproven. Wildly.
Yeah.
This guy's caught passes against ranked teams on the road at night.
He almost caught as many balls as Gunnar Helm did last year.
I mean, he's a good player. He's proven in a way that you take so much pressure off of Jordan Washington at that point to just go be the best version of Jordan Washington that you can be, as opposed to you're the only guy to fill the void of Gunnar Helm is a lot to ask of a guy who's barely played. So, there's almost nothing more important that they can do right now than to go in. And if it were me, I would, Chad, if you were to put both that full screen graphic back up of the top available players, I don't think there's any reason why Texas shouldn't go for both of the tight ends that are in my top 5. They actually, injuries and the kid from Wisconsin, there is a little bit of crossover there, but you are going from having none of guys that you can count on. And really what they've been doing this spring is trying to talk themselves into, well, we've got enough good tight ends to get through practice.
Right. And again, you love 12 personnel. It is part of what you do.
On offense, yes.
Right. That's another big part of this. I've said this many times, Catch. This is a different discussion if he's a 4 and 5 wides kind of coach. He's not. For all those people that want to just pile wide receivers in and figure out those 4 and 5 wide situations, it's not that it's never going to happen, but there's a lot of what he does, what Sark does, that's 12 personnel. That's why those 2 guys are really important. And I hadn't thought of it that way, but if there's a place to get greedy in the portal, maybe that's it, Catch. Go after, don't just go after one, go after both.
And I think what is a little interesting is Andrews has multiple years of eligibility remaining. The kid from Wisconsin is a grad transfer. So that you probably would like, if you were going to take multiple tight ends, I think you'd want one of them to be a grad senior, at which point, you can look all the guys in that tight end room in the eye and say, well, look, if you're good enough to play, nothing's stopping you. But we're not going to put you on the field just to put you on the field. You now have time to grow a little bit more. But Texas can't sit around and wait. And is the one thing that I feel like with Arch Manning, you will feel urgency in this program of like, well, look, we're rooting for you to be the tight end of the future. But at every position, we need the thing now. We need now. We don't get to just take one of Arch's remaining seasons and play it in a year to be determined later. It's now. It's 2025. It's 2026.
Right.
And I think that they really feel we can't waste these opportunities. And I feel like we're watching them. You know, I don't know that Jack Hendries is a guy that they would have gone after in the last couple of years in the portal. He's not an SEC guy. We know all things being equal, they like to dip into the Alabama and the Georgia and they will. They haven't done a lot of this, and it's a little bit outside of their comfort zone, but I think they realize we have absolute needs. And whereas I think they've been really patient in the portal in previous windows, certainly in the winter, the December portal of 2 years ago, they're waiting on Isaiah Bond, and Isaiah Bond didn't come out. And so then it was a little bit of like, we are not going to get the guys at receiver. And Barry Brown was a guy that they thought might enter the portal, and then he didn't. And then they passed up on guys that they could have gone in on because they were being patient. I think that is one thing we're seeing right now is that what guys that are coming in, Texas isn't waiting necessarily to see if somebody better comes in. And I wondered that a little bit about Mosley. Would they look to lock that down right away, or would they say, hey, look around a little bit, take a week, because we don't think you're going to find a better option than us, but we're not so sure about whether or not there'll be a better option than you. I think it really spoke to me about what they thought about Mosley is that they were so aggressive in, we don't need to see who else, what else, if anything else comes in. You are a guy we want a part of our plans. It's one of the reasons why it's like, man, I need to keep taking a look at this guy, because the more you just talk it out, the more you realize that it took, I think, a unique situation for Texas to jump on that guy. And the unique part of it is he's really good.
The other side of it, Catch, to the word opportunity. It's not just about Texas. We've talked about the opportunity for these guys. The other day we talked about Mosley. Possibly, like deep down, if Sark knows it's 2 years of Arch, Mosley knows he could get those 2 years. Catching passes from Manning. One of these tight ends knows he gets 2 of those. The other one could get 1, as you talked about being a grad transfer. But imagine the argument you're making to yourself here. I want to maximize the end of my career. I got a couple more years of opportunity. And Sark's response and Jeff Banks' response is, really, do you want to catch those footballs? I got those footballs for you to catch. You want to play big time? You want to go for all of it? You want to catch balls from one of the most famous quarterbacks that's ever existed in this sport? Come on down to Austin. Like and I get somebody in the chat said about the kid from Wisconsin, could it be a culture thing? Do you worry about a guy that went from Ball State to Wisconsin and never played it down? I don't know the particulars of that, Catch. You got to double check on that stuff. But if they're both really good, you can add the argument of you guys can come catch balls from Arch Manning for this season. Talk about incentive. My goodness.
Do we I see Williams got a super chat. Do we need to knock out anymore?
We had one more to slide in. 199er. Tennessee should take the quarterback leaving UCLA over Sawyer. Oh, come on now. Maybe. You may be right.
Hold on. I would just say this. So Syracuse Horn jumped in. It's not a super chat, but he says Koziel didn't even play a season at Wisconsin. Not sure he's a guy I'd want. Culture fit is important.
That's the one I was referencing there, yeah.
I mean, no, but he caught a bazillion passes at Ball State.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I don't really care about.
How many passes did you say he caught? 90-something?
I think it was 98.
Yeah. And Syracuse Horn, you just got to ask him. Ask the question. right? It's like you're trying to decide whether you're going to date that person. Well, she's dated like 5 guys in 2 years or whatever it is, right? Well,
He
ask
ranked
her.
number 4 in FBS with 94 catches for 839 yards and 8 touchdowns. In his career, he's caught 163 passes for over 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
Do you want to give yourself a chance at tight end or not?
Yeah. Again, you just ask, what is it? It's easy. It's just like if you're going to the NFL, catch for free agency in the NFL or draft in the NFL. If you got something like that, they'll ask you about it. Hey, man, you were at Ball State and you jumped into the portal to go to Wisconsin and didn't play a down and you left in the spring. Why? He'll tell you.
If this kid comes out and says, well, Clemson told me that they would take me, and so I wanted to play there instead. I get it.
Yeah,
I have no problem with this kid spending a semester at Wisconsin, having a better option and going, I'm out.
It is what this goofy system allows. So you got to figure out if it could actually make sense for you. Syracuse Horn, thank you for that.
I don't have a problem with Micah Hudson doing what he did. My golden rule on all of this is, man, whatever makes these guys happy, they got to live their lives. And Micah Hudson went to A&M and immediately had second guessing and regret. And I don't know what it was about. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I just want that kid to be successful and be happy.
And I also, I just wonder, because when we put up the graphic earlier, you had Micah Hudson listed as Texas Tech. I've seen him listed as A&M. I wonder, is Micah Hudson going to be a weird test of this SEC rule? How does the SEC rule read in terms of, do I have to play? Like, does he have to actually suit up in a game for A&M? Or is it just enough that he picked the Aggies out of one portal? Does that make him a part of that rule?
I'm fascinated to see the interpretation of that. Real quick, Syracuse Horn says the MAC isn't exactly the big leagues. No, it's not.
No.
Syracuse, this is not a deep and varied pool.
Yeah.
This might be as good as it gets. And it's one of the reasons why, personally, I prefer the other tight end. I prefer Jack Indries over this guy. He's a proven Power 4 conference player. He's a little bigger, a little more physical. So it's why I personally have Indries rated higher, but there are people that have it flipped, that have the kid from Wisconsin ranked a little higher. But look, Kellen Winslow's not walking through that door. Brock Bowers isn't mysteriously coming out of Georgia and saying, I'm in.
That was well done. You just picked 2 absolute studs from their eras. Well played.
I mean, I think there does have to be. I think, man, if the Brock Bowers, if such a thing of 2025 existed and entered the portal, cool. But in reality, you're good. Some of this is the best of the house of the misfit toys.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this is, why? Well, they had a coaching thing happen, shakes up the roster, or they're a grad transfer, or a little bit of unhappy. There's a little something that's going to happen that will make this a unique situation in almost every case, and you just do the best you can. And, I think on some level, a combination of Emit Mosley and Jack Indries would be purchasing from the Island of Misfit Toys a little bit, but it's maybe the best version of that you're going to get. Beggars can't be choosy. Texas needs to come away out of this with at least one tight end. You'd rather have the best guy available than what comes. Because let me tell you, if your question of the Tanner Koziel guy is, well, he played at Ball State, and that's not exactly a murderer's row. What do you see what the options behind that look like? Because it's a lot of, this guy played at Ball State, and he had 5 catches for 78 yards instead of 94 catches. What is available and of value? Look, number 3 on my tight end list is Davon Mitchell, who may be lazy and unsavable. Because at Oklahoma, it sounds like he went there and didn't put in any work. But that position is such a premium. Finding guys who have pulses is of such a premium that a guy who floundered horribly at one place still, I think, has some legitimate value when you consider he plays at a position where guys don't grow on trees. And we probably think the opposite of wide receivers and a few of these other positions. But one like tight end or edge, you can almost commit murder and still be a guy that'll get a chance if you have the right component of skills.
All right, Catch. Our guy David Keith is taking the cards you played, and he's going to try to one-up you. Here it goes. Actually, Nick Townsend might be a combination of both Kellen Winslow Sr. and Brock Bowers. He actually is faster and may be more physical than them both. Way to go, David Keith. That's what I'm talking about. That's the tight end discussion I want to have. Let's go. 12 personnel all over the place with that. Catch, he can do 12 personnel by himself. He's both of them.
I mean, they don't even need to bring him into practice. Just let him show up in Columbus and go.
Woo! I love it.
Buckeyes will never know what hit them.
That is fantastic. No pressure, young man. No pressure. Kids, go look up Kellen Winslow Sr. You don't need to you know who Brock Bowers is. Go look up Kellen Winslow Sr. Oh my God. All right. Thank y'all for all those chats. We have crossed over the 1 o'clock spot. Catch, anything else portal wise on your mind today before we buy or sell?
No, but I haven't hit refresh. I saw that people had mentioned that the Notre Dame kicker had entered the portal.
Yes. Oh yeah. Let's get a little kicker talk in because we haven't talked about the Texas State kid either, but let's talk kickers.
He was 2 of 5 last season with a long of 42.
The Notre Dame guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this Mason Shipley cat out of Texas State.
Now that kid's like 31 of 35 in his career.
He's been pretty good.
He's really good inside of 50 yards.
Right. He's been badass Sun Belt good.
Yeah.
So, and he is in the portal.
He falls under, for me, the category of, is that the best you can get? Yeah. Okay.
Is he good? Here's my question. Is he good enough that you could get him out of the portal and one of your guys hits the portal the other way?
I mean, it has to happen.
I mean,
It has to.
I'm not saying it has to be that one guy, but it probably needs to be that one guy. Because I don't know a Texas fan right now that would be so comfortable with the idea of, hey, 45-yarder to win it in Columbus. Bert's headed out there.
I don't have a good, the thing, if it's me, the best skill that either of those two guys has is Will Stone on kickoffs. He's a good kickoff guy.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't want to lose that. He was a good kickoff guy. Texas didn't have a lot of kickoffs returned against them last year.
He's not good enough that
No, I'm saying if you're asking me to choose between those two guys, right, neither of them are good enough on field goals that make me give them any special consideration.
Yeah.
And one of them does do something else, though.
Yeah. You have to, deep in his soul, Sark has to know what the end of last year means. Right? Like you can't.
I think this is the ultimate. We can't force guys into the portal if they don't want to be there. Because we're even talking about this kid from Texas State.
But
he has a pulse and isn't terrible. And he looks like the best option that's available. And if that's what they have to do, then that's what they have to do.
You got to find somebody that you'd trust to try a 40-yard field goal to win the game in Columbus. Take everything else out of it. That's where it starts. That's the next game. Does he trust Bert Auburn to go make that kick?
They don't trust anybody.
Right. So if the answer is no, then what he's looking for here in this kicker portal discussion is, do I have a guy on short term in a short time frame that I'd feel more comfortable with
But if you
than
took this
that
guy from Texas State, you can't sight unseen say, well, I feel comfortable now. He hasn't kicked in front of you. You don't know what it looks like when he's at DKR kicking the football. You know what it looks like when he's at Bobcat Stadium.
Right. And by extension, you certainly don't know what he's like in the horseshoe, because that's why I keep bringing it up. It'll be a packed horseshoe, middle of the day, because they'll probably kick it at 11. And what if you need a kick to win or tie or whatever? Like, you got to find somebody that can make that kick. That's crazy. Sailor Joe, $4.99 super chat. Fate is funny. Calling it right now. Bert will redeem himself in a big game moment. Have a great weekend. Sailor Joe, you think he trusts him? And he might. He might.
No, Sailor Joe didn't say he was going to redeem himself in a Texas uniform.
I think I read that as that's what he meant, but okay. Sailor Joe, technically, you could have meant somewhere else.
Technically, he's got everything covered.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing I would love to, it's just little bits of, truth serum Sark, if you could get it from him, Catch. If I saw Sark in an elevator today and I could only get one question off, and he can say, like, he only gives me one word back, a quick yes, no. I think that's what I would ask him. Do you trust Bert Auburn to hit a kick to win Ohio State?
Answer to that. He didn't trust him in the last game they played.
No, I know, but that doesn't mean he wouldn't trust him in Columbus. Theoretically, I need to hear him say it.
Okay.
Because he brought them both back and said, we're going to have us a kicking battle. I'm like, okay. A kicking battle between the guy you didn't trust, the guy you grew not to trust, and the guy you didn't trust to start with. Okay. All right. We'll see. But Mason Shipley is the guy's name at Texas State. I don't even know the Notre Dame kicker's name. So for you, Catch, is the Notre Dame kicker like part of this discussion? Should they look at him? No. Okay. All right. Didn't sound like a lot of attempts either. What'd you say he was?
Well, he handled kickoffs. So he had like 50 touchbacks. It was 2 of 5 on field goals and 18 of 18 on point afters.
Okay. So he just wasn't their field goal guy.
He was third string in the spring.
Yeah, that'd make me a little shaky. That'd make me feel shaky if your guys only attempted like 5-6 field goals. All right. Thank you all for the chats rolling through today. Catch, are you ready to buy or sell?
Yes.
First or second?
Doesn't matter. What do you want me to do?
Hang on. Let me take a peek at mine.
I mean, I can go right now.
You know what? I think you went first yesterday. Let me go first today.
Okay, I've gone first both days this week. So
let's switch.
Not that I'm keeping score, but that's just what happened.
Yeah, we'll switch it up. And I'll go first. I'll let you finish off the week. I'll let you finish off of the day. Here we go. Buy or sell number 1. Back to the portal discussion. The Cal tight end and there he is. The Texas State kicker will both end up at Texas.
I love that right now they're not names. They're just guys.
Exactly.
I'll go buy. There's definitely some buzz that both of those guys could. I think it seems more likely than not at this point.
All righty. Staying with the portal. Buy or sell number 2. When the spring portal players are in, Texas will feel like a top 4 kind of team.
Buy. I mean, I think they already kind of feel like a top 4 team. It's really narrow. It's nitpicking because their roster, at the scope of their roster, screams top 4 team.
Yeah.
It is how the roster is built and pieced together that I think is the real conversation. And so, yeah, I think they will look like that. The question is not will they, look or feel like a top 4 team, but will that be who they are? But I think we'll eventually get there.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to check in with you because I know you've had the feeling of, in some arguments, they might be like a playoff team to you, but you don't know how many more arguments you could make past that.
Yeah, but even if all they did is if you add Emit Mosley and you add, let's say, the Cal tight end, just in the last couple of days, you have fundamentally from last week improved 2 critically important pieces of the puzzle. You've made those positions better, positions that we've been talking about needing to be better. So as long as the improvement is coming, and it looks like it's coming from guys, at least at this point, these are players that will and can play. I don't think we're looking at this like some of these Oklahoma guys where it's like, man, I don't even know if this guy can play at this level. That's not what they've done. And I think that's important context here.
Now you just got to get the attention of those D tackles that aren't in the portal yet. Yo, guys, Sark said the numbers were down. What are you waiting for?
Well, what's the problem?
What are you waiting for? All right, Catch.
No confirmation of this rumor, but I heard Barry Alexander was trying to get into the portal for the 15th time, and they just wouldn't tell him how to get there. He tried
to get it there. All right, Catch, let's stay with college football. Buy or sell number 3. Lee Corso will retire after the Texas-Ohio State weekend. His last headgear will be Brutus. Book it.
Sell. I think he's going to put on the Longhorn headgear.
Oh, come on. In Columbus?
One last big shock.
By the way, he turns 90 on August 7th.
Jesus.
90. He's going to be 90 years old. Good for you, Lee Corso. And good for whoever finally decided to stop using him. My God. How long can you use a guy? He's let you do it, but man.
I thought they were going to roll him out there like they do The Bride and Kill Bill. Like, should be in a hospital gown in bed in a coma, and they just roll him on out.
Hey, Catch, I'm going to embarrass everybody at ESPN right now. Do you know what year he had the stroke? Did you read that?
No.
2009. That's disgraceful. That's 16 years ago. What are y'all doing? You've seen it right in front of you for that long, and it's taken to now. And you're still going to make him go to Columbus one more time. Good God. All right. Lee Corso, happy retirement, brother. I can't believe they used you that long.
I can't believe when we did 3 Coaches and a Baby, we did that skit that there was no Lee Corso in there.
Yeah, I've never had a Lee Corso impersonation. It would just been a lot. Not so fast, my friend. It would have been all that. All right, Catch. WrestleMania is coming up. You know I got to mix in some wrestling this week. Buy or sell number 4. Roddy Piper would have been 71 today. Rest in peace. He is on your wrestling villain Mount Rushmore.
I think he kind of has to be.
I do too. And I'm not exactly sure how we fill it out, but damn, Roddy
That's
was
how
a
I feel,
villain.
Chad. I don't know who's on it. I just kind of feel like Piper also is kind of one of the original. He's a bad guy, but you love him because he's a bad guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And
yeah, in the same way, I can put Ric Flair on this thing pretty easily.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I could even put Hogan on this list pretty easily because everybody remembers him so much as a bad guy.
Boy, you could put Hogan in the Hall of Fame babyface and villain Hall of Fame at the same time.
And Flair. I thought of that today. You could put both of them on each Mount Rushmore.
When did Flair cross over? He was always the bad guy when I was a kid, but he became a mascot at some point.
Well, I think during the NWO era, because he stayed WCW and they had, most of the time they were just beating him up mercilessly. But I think that's when the crowd kind of really embraced him as good guy, being able to be.
He became wrestling icon Ric Flair at some point.
Yeah.
And then he became like his own celebrity force field, if you will.
Yeah, because at some point, the true greats, it doesn't even matter anymore. Like The Rock or Stone Cold or whatever. Well, is he a good guy or a bad guy? I don't know. I just can't hear you because the crowd.
I don't think they controlled that. Like, I think just organically,
right?
He became our mascot of wrestling.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way.
He's fully transcended what his character was into something else, and I'm not quite sure when and how it happened, but it happened. Is it my turn?
No, I got one more.
Okay.
And speaking of I'm not really sure why this idea popped in my head. I don't think I've ever done this exact thing before, but let's see what you do with it. Buy or sell number 5. Jennifer Garner is 53 years old today. Victoria Beckham is 51. If you could date one of them for a month, you'd pick Beckham. This is not hotter than.
Jennifer Garner feels like a great hang.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's what I would do too.
I mean, she's super attractive, but she just seems like a great hang.
Right.
Whereas nothing against Victoria Beckham. I don't know what her and I would talk about.
It feels like it'd be a little heavier experience, doesn't it?
I feel like she would be like, what, you're wearing shorts again? It's like, well, it's 98 degrees outside, Victoria. Like, yeah, I'm wearing shorts today.
Yeah, whereas Jennifer would be good with you wearing shorts because she's probably taking you on a tour of one of those farms that she works at, right?
I mean, I just feel like Jennifer Garner is going to be a great hang.
Yeah.
That is one of when the whole Affleck thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
He really kind of allegedly screwed over America's mom.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like nobody dislikes Jennifer Garner.
That's fair. She does feel like a well-liked person. It's kind of
like every guy acknowledges that he would date her, and every woman feels like they could be friends with her.
It's kind of like what Pitt did to Aniston. Everybody had that same feel.
Except Aniston was but felt a little glitzier.
True.
I'm telling you, Jennifer Garner feels like it happened very organically. Like it was one day you were like, wait a minute. Jennifer Garner's playing somebody's mom in a movie. That feels so right.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, there's never been a more perfect role for a human being ever than for her to age into she's now America's mom in movies. Every time I see her in a movie and she's a mom, I'm like, it's America's sweetheart mom right there. It doesn't get more mom than Jennifer Garner. And I mean that in like as pleasant of a way as possible.
There you go. Happy birthday to those two ladies today. All right, Cats, that's my 5. What do you got?
Buy or sell. I have these not written in any order, so I'm just going to kind of do these in the order that I choose to. Buy or sell number 1. Texas will sign 2 tight ends in the spring portal.
The man loves 12 personnel. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say buy. He doesn't quite have enough that he can really, really count on. Let's buy that. 2 tight ends in the portal.
Buy or sell number 2. The big UT draft story next week over the 3 days will be the number of first-round draft picks that Texas produces, more so than the number of overall players selected.
I'm going to buy this, Catch, and it's funny you bring this up because I actually looked up the numbers today. If Texas gets 3 guys in the first round, that's only the second time it would have ever happened. It happened in 1980, and that's it. That's it. So I think that will be that blinking, because last year they had a group of guys, a lot. I think this year it will be about quality at the top, and that's going to come out. And it's going to be like, wait a minute, this has only happened one time in the whole history of the program. That I think is what's going to stand out if those 3 guys end up in the first round, which every mock I'm seeing has Golden, Banks, and who am I forgetting? Barron in the first round. So I'm gonna buy that.
Can I say that I slightly disagree with you?
Okay.
And I think the story could be Quinn.
Really?
That we'll get to Monday.
Of where he's drafted, you mean?
And it will be Quinn went after day 2.
Right.
I feel like if that happens, it'll be the thing on Monday that we're talking about.
I got you. Okay.
But it's not.
You might be right.
I don't know that it should be, right?
Right.
What you just said is a pretty monstrous deal.
Because think about it. You get Thursday night into Friday to let that sink. Those 3 guys get drafted. They'll all head off to their NFL locations on Friday for those press conferences. And the whole Quinn thing won't have happened until.
Yeah, but on Friday night, I think
once you get to Saturday, once we're at Saturday, you might be right.
No, I think after day 1. So they've had 3 guys selected, and it's a big deal, and it should be the story. I think as soon as day 1 ends, the conversation becomes, when does Quinn get drafted? And then I think it's the story all day on Friday. Then the draft happens. If he doesn't go, it's the only thing talked about going in to day 3. And then I think it just carries us. Now, as long as he gets drafted on day 2, I'm wrong. But if he doesn't get drafted on day 2 and it's, I don't know. This was a buy or sell question yesterday. I don't know.
Yeah, that is an interesting way to look. By the way, Catch, here's a fun stat for you. Texas has had 2 guys, multiple guys in the first round, 12 times in the history of the program. Max got half of those. Max got 6 of the 12.
If Quinn goes 4th round or later, what will we be saying? Will people be saying he should have come back and transferred and gone to somewhere else other than Texas for a year?
Yes.
What has to happen for that to be a thing?
Yes, they'll say it, and then they'll add the joke of, I hear Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Oh, God. Buy or sell number 3. I'm so upset that I asked that as a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Jackson Jeffcoat's 27.5 career sacks gets tracked down by Colin Simmons before he departs.
Where's Colin? Can you tell me where Colin is right now?
Didn't he finish with 9.5? 9?
Okay, so 27.5.
Like 20 over the next 2 years definitely gets him there.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wow. The discussion we had today is just weighing on me. I'll sell. A lot of talent on that team. He'll get a lot of sacks, but I'll say he doesn't quite get there.
All right. Buy or sell number 3, Lee Corso is as big in college football as Dick Vitale is to college basketball.
Sell. It's not quite to that level. Dickie V is not only, yes, he turned into that mascot thing, but he's the former coach who's also calling games right there on the floor. He's part of highlights in a different way. Lee's on the pregame show, and I know college football is a bigger deal overall, but in terms of to the sport itself, I'm going to say Vitale's more important to his sport, so I'll sell.
But for the record, Colin Simmons had 9 sacks a year ago, so that would mean he would need 19 sacks to break Jackson Jeffcoat's sack number.
Yeah, you like him to get there?
I like him to
say he gets there.
Well, he's not getting the career record, but I think he could be the modern guy. All right, and finally, buy or sell number 5. The headgear piece of game day needs to be retired once Corso is gone.
Man, I've been thinking about this one throughout the day because it's obvious who the guy is. The question is, if you take what McAfee's doing now, scream, yell, cut a promo, wrestling style promo, stand on the chair, yell, scream, play the crowd. Do you need him to add the headgear to it to sort of keep it alive? Or like you're suggesting here, do you retire it and do you say it belongs to Corso and it's just his thing? I'll go old man today and say bye. I'll say bye. Now, again, back to the way they've treated Lee Corso over the years. They respected him enough to keep him around this long, but I can also argue they kind of insulted him enough to just drag him through this situation, even though his health was the way it was and his communication skills were the way they were. So in the end, does he get a say? Does he get to say, I want this to continue, I want the headgear thing to keep going? Or are they going to kind of, shove it off to the side? I don't know. Today I'll say bye and that you should retire it. What do you think? Should it go away forever, or should they try to keep it alive somehow?
I can come down on both sides.
See, I could too. Like, imagine Pat standing in the chair at outside Outson Stadium. You could see someone throw him a duck head. He puts the duck head on and he flexes. He's got no shirt on. Maybe he painted his chest green. Like, would it really be that big a jump to say, hey, throw the headgear on too?
I just, it's like, well, look, just because Madden, they don't stop doing the Madden game. They don't stop doing the turducken or the big turkey legs on Thanksgiving because he's not giving them out anymore.
They do it as a tribute to him, and they play highlights. They could still play Lee highlights of all, of all kinds of stuff.
I like the idea of, now don't do it to do it, but I don't know that I ever like someone owning the bit.
Right. I agree. Plus, again, not to be too snarky again, but you have been using this man since 2009 when he had a stroke. Don't get magnanimous now. Don't get overly, well, Chad, we've got to respect. You got to respect what? What do you have to respect? You've gone 15 plus years knowing what you should do. Do not get sanctimonious on me now. Oh, Chad, we can't have McAfee doing Headgear. Right. Sure you can't.
And that's the other thing. We can't act like this is church.
Exactly. Right.
It's a pregame college football show. None of this is, hey, don't say the Lord's name. And it's not that. No. It's not the equivalent of that.
I agree. Yeah.
And something that we should, no matter what they do, the response should not be, let's riot. No.
Yeah. And to be fair to what they've done, Catch, they have phased Lee out. We've been discussing this for years. They phased him out. It wasn't like Dick Clark abrupt. It didn't look like that, and it didn't sound like that. But eventually they had to figure out the Dick Clark situation too with the New Year's Eve thing. They phased him out. They've decided this is the end. But I agree. Ultimately, now that we talked about it, I don't think it needs to end. And if I'm Lee Corso, I would say, hey, I started this thing, but I don't want it to stop. I think it's a cool thing. I think somebody should do it. And I think they should have a goofy ceremony in Columbus where he bestows the Brutus head and the Hookem head onto Pat McAfee. Hand him both of them and say, Pat, this is your turn. You pick which hat you want to put on, and then it continues. That's what they should do. There it is. We've solved the problem.
Okay, well, we worked through that.
There it is. All right. Anything else, Catch? Are we good?
I'm good. Yeah, let's go. We're good.
Thank you all for liking, subscribing, getting the notifications. We're almost to 25,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much for that. That's free, by the way, on the YouTube channel. Check it out. And also, if you didn't like on the way in, go ahead and like on the way out. And if you need to get signed up for orangebloods.com, hit that QR code down there. It's the easiest way to get signed up. Football with Friends at 6 tonight. Anwar's got the old-fashioned for you at 9 in the morning. And we'll be back for a Friday show on House Divided at 12 noon. There might be a little WrestleMania talk because, WrestleMania is coming up. I might make Catch pick every match tomorrow during the show. Never know. Until then, we are House Divided, and this is Orange Bloods Live. Y'all take care. See ya.